Hey Joel,
Hello.
how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good, thank you.
You're
I
on Rena's
have a
name.
couple of kids here already.
You're on Rena's name, not on your own.
I am Rena,
Oh,
actually.
sorry. You look kind of like Laura.
Really?
A little bit. I mean, as I remember, but yeah.
Funny. Um, I'm Rena. I work at Seafair Israel.
Right. Cool.
Actually, we know each other sort of because I believe you're friendly with my former brother-in-law,
Yeah,
Jackie.
Jackie. Yeah, good friend of mine. Yeah. Cool.
And I know a friend of mine used you once in Jerusalem and she like loved you.
Who is that?
Dee Dee Shefitz.
The name rings a bell. I do a lot of tours, so it's hard to remember everybody, but the name does ring a bell, though.
I understand. Okay. Um,
Cool.
So I guess you're just we're a few minutes early, so
Yeah, and when Laura gets here, she needs to make me co-host, so she'll take care of that when she gets here. And about how many are we expecting? Do we know?
no idea.
Okay, that's fine.
I'm texting her now. Do you want people to come in and put their videos on or?
It's up to them. I'll
um,
discuss it when people come in. It's all good. I see that congregation hates Chaim has arrived, so that might be Laura. Ah, there she is. She's just switched to Laura. Hello, Laura.
Hello, how are you? Oh, let me change my background.
No, I like the cat. That's adorable.
This
You want to
actually
make
could
me a
happen
host, Laura?
in my house. Yes, I will do that right now.
My sound coming through, Rena?
Okay, hi Aviva. Hi Rena.
Hey, how are you?
How you doing, Joel?
I'm good, thanks.
Awesome. Okay.
You have a very serious mic in front of you, Joel.
Well, it's make sure you can hear me. As you'll see here, I'll unplug it. You'll hear that you won't be able to hear me as well.
Testing
See,
one,
now
two.
I don't sound nearly as good, do I?
Sounds okay to me.
Hi,
You hear
Steve.
this, and then this. You don't hear a
Okay.
difference?
I hear a difference, but it's not like
Aviva's shaking her head no. She doesn't hear a difference. Micah says thumbs up, though. Better safe than sorry, anyway.
Can you hear me
So
now?
If I move
Joel,
it really close, then it's a big difference. This you hear clearly, right?
mhm.
Too loud for you, Laura?
no, it was just incredibly clear and incredibly close.
Yes, if I speak like this, you hear me excellently.
Can you hear me?
Hi, Steve. You know, you don't have the same microphone.
How about now?
Better.
Yeah, we hear you good now.
All right, well, I'm not gonna lie, I just sat down to have lunch, so I'm gonna turn my video off so you don't see me chewing while you're talking.
Not a problem.
Before you go, Rena,
I'm here. I'm not going
Well,
anywhere, but I'm here.
Rena is my friend who literally knows everyone. When I mentioned your name, she's like, oh yeah, I know someone who knows him. Remind me who that was, Rena?
We
It's
already
not-
discussed it.
You already had this. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just late to the game.
it's okay.
All good. So, Laura, do you know how many we're expecting?
I had about 9 RSVPs on my end, and I sent out a reminder about an hour ago. And then Rena, how about on your end of things?
We also, I didn't ask for RSVPs, so I don't know, but Steve also sent out a reminder a couple hours ago, so hopefully we'll have at least a good number.
Okay.
Okay, here comes Jonah. My kids are passionate for sushi. Aviva, are you a sushi
I'm not
fan?
going to be
I don't
discussing
like
sushi
sushi.
today.
No, you
What's
don't.
that,
Okay,
Aviva?
well, it's not traditionally Israeli.
I don't like sushi.
Hi, Jonah. You
Hello.
don't like sushi? That's okay.
Hi, Elisa.
How's it going?
Good. How are you?
Good.
Steve, I don't think you have enough books.
Actually, I got rid of about 10 or 20% of my books just recently. I'm cutting them back.
Good for you.
So you're right. I don't have enough books.
He was making room for him to get more.
No, I'm not allowed to do that anymore.
Ah,
I don't know if you know of the movie Birdcage, but there's a scene in which he says, only take out, don't bring in, only take out.
ah.
That's where we are.
So Laura, you'll tell me when you want me to start, but we have time still. It's not even at the hour yet. So, but you'll let me know when you want me to start.
Absolutely. Just in a general sense, Joel, how is the Israeli news covering what's going on here with the?
To be honest, I don't really watch the news much or anything like that. I mean, I do consume a bit of the, the English language news from here. I usually look on Times of Israel. There was a top article today was about it. So, it's definitely, I presume that the Hebrew language sources also had stuff about it. How they're covering it is basically just straight reporting. They're not like necessarily, I didn't see any op-eds or anything. They're just talking about what's going on. So.
Yeah. I live about, as the crow flies, about 5 or 6 miles from the White House. So we drove by yesterday, not to see what was going on. We were just picking up dinner, and I didn't realize the scope of what was happening. It was good in a way because people need to express themselves, but frightening and sad in a way.
Yeah.
Jerusalem Post English had a pretty good article too. I didn't read it. I just glanced at it, but yeah, it was covered pretty well there.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, in general, the way that we'll cover news stories that are American news stories as opposed to America vis-a-vis Israel are, the big stories get covered, but not necessarily, they're just like saying what's happening, So.
Looks like we have a few more people, and Micah has, I don't know how people do that with their keyboards. I don't know if you're on like a tablet, like I don't have those characters.
You do, you just don't know you do.
Okay, well, maybe that's my next project.
They have it in Apple and they have it on Chromebook. I don't know if they have it in Samsung though. But in Apple, it's really weird. You have like one of the Japanese languages has all those emojis. I don't know why.
So it's a Japanese language font?
Well, it's a keyboard.
Yeah, but also a lot of them, if you do like a character map, they'll have like in everything, they'll also have all these different language, like things like Arabic characters and Hebrew characters and all that. So
Yeah, so far I've learned how to change my background, but that's like the next level skill. All right, Joel, I'm going to give it another minute because it looks like we have some more friends joining us.
No worries.
And I'm going to ask when we start that the people who've joined us turn their cameras on because I think it's a lot more fun when we can see each other's faces. Especially
there's
when
my guy.
Upside down.
There's my Ezra. He's acting the way he usually does. That's the way, buddy.
Okay, wow. How do you teach an upside down floating head, Steve? That's a real skill.
It happens all the time in my classroom. These guys are great. They teach what I know about Zoom. Guys like Ezra taught me.
Okay, well, this is really nice. It looks like we have kind of a 50-50 split between our two congregations. I'm really glad to see everyone. My students, you saw me about an hour ago, and everyone from Tifereth Israel, welcome. It's really good to see everyone. Today we have Fun Joel, which is not how he wrote his name, but it is one of his identities. He is originally from the States, so you'll hear him talk and you'll be like, well, where's that Israeli accent? Although I'm sure he could probably pull one off. But because we've been doing this Israel program together throughout the year, and we did it last year with some of the students who are on the call, we wanted to end with something really fun, end with something that will literally whet your appetite and hopefully make you want to go to Israel when it's safe to go, and we can go enjoy ourselves and see some of the things that Joel will tell us about. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to our tour guide.
Thank you very much, Laura. How's everybody doing? You guys, I'm going to talk to you guys a lot, so you guys are totally welcome at any point to either respond in comments or with, some of like the visual reactions, or you can unmute yourselves and talk also, okay? Just obviously, if it gets too out of hand, we'll say something, but feel free to unmute yourselves when it's appropriate, okay? So first of all, I want to start, before I even get into anything, I just want to get a feel for you guys. So either by visually showing me or something else, I just want to know how many of you have been to Israel? Okay, I got Aviva, Steve. Who else? Adam, yeah? No. Micah, Hillel. Yeah. Rena, Danielle. Okay. So like, looks like about Joshua, I see. So most of you actually, that's great. And I'm going to assume that most of you, if you've been here, you've been to Jerusalem and you've been to Shuk Machane Yehuda, the Machane Yehuda market, the big outdoor market. Now, that's what we're going to be focusing on today. But before I get into it, I want to explain to you why we're talking about this. I know your session is, your program is about Israel. And you guys are in America. I grew up in America. Now I live here. I moved here about 11 plus years ago. The way I look at things, the way I look at Jewish history, because as a tour guide, I do focus a lot on that. The two greatest stories in modern Jewish history are these two countries, okay? America, you may not have ever really thought about it, but the amount that Jews in America have achieved and how integrated we've become and the heights that we've risen to and how successful we've become, it's never been like that ever before in the entire history of the world, okay? That's an amazing feat. But I don't need to tell you guys about that because you guys live there and you know it the best. But even if you've been here, you might not understand as much why Israel is also one of the greatest stories of modern Jewry. And so in brief, what I want you to realize is that, let's say about 150 years ago, not that long ago, there were Jews here. There have always been Jews here. Since the time the temple was destroyed 2,000 years ago until today, there has never been a time where there were no Jews in Israel. That we know for sure. But there were certain times where it was a very small amount. But gotten to the point where, like, let's say 150 years ago, maybe there was a few 100,000 Jews here, maybe. Now, in Israel, we have somewhere in the neighborhood of 9 million Jews here. Okay, we basically, our two countries have the two biggest Jewish communities in the world. And the story that you see here in Israel is what we call in Hebrew, kibbutz galiot, which means the ingathering of the exiles. Throughout the last 2,000 years, Jews have literally spread all over the world. Virtually every country in this world, if you look at their history, Jews were there at some point. And I actually did this myself, so I know. Okay? But over the last 150 years, Jews have moved back here from all over the world. And that's the story we're going to be looking at today. Because here in Israel, and in Jerusalem in particular, we have Jews from all over the world living here. And because of that, we have foods from all over that we can find here. I'm a big food guy. How many of you are would call yourselves foodies? Anybody? Okay, we got the glossers. Abe, Adam. All right, a few of you. Fiona. Okay, cool. Even if you don't call yourself a foodie, do you love food? Does anybody here not like eating? Right? Yeah, we all love eating. And if you're going to eat, you may as well eat something that tastes good, right? So what we're going to do is I'm going to go through a lot of this stuff, talk to you guys about the different foods. I see Abe loves sushi. Aviva is a very picky eater, but still you like to eat, right? If it's the things that you like. Okay, cool. So basically, I'm going to go through these different things, and via the food, we're going to learn about the people. That's what I love to do. I love food, and I think that food isn't just something we eat. Food is something that connects us to people. Make sense, guys? Yeah? Latkes are good too. Yeah, I love latkes. All right. So at the end of this, by the way, I want you guys to stick around because at the end of this whole thing, I'm going to give you guys a little, not a gift that it's like something really significant, but a little gift that connects with food at the very end too. Okay? So that being said, by way of introduction, I want to share my screen and show you a bunch of pictures and videos and things like that just so you learn a little bit more about the market, what we call the shuk. And by the way, the word shuk just means markets. We have lots of shuks. If I say the shuk, that means this one here that's called Machane Yehuda. The reason I'm pointing is because I live 1 minute away from it. Okay, so it's right over here. And then we're going to dive into the food itself. Okay. I will be less likely to see the comments in chat, by the way, while I'm sharing my screen. So either Laura or Rena, if something looks urgent, you'll cut in and let me know. Or otherwise, guys, really, I want you to feel free to unmute yourselves if you want to say something or if you have a question. I'm going to ask some questions during it. And so please, instead of putting it into the chat, feel free to unmute yourselves, okay? Because I really want to keep you guys involved here. All right? So that being said, let me go to some pictures. So this is a picture of what the shuk looks like, or the market, Machane Yehuda market. I took this picture a few years ago. You can see on both sides over here, there's all these different little stores, and it is packed with people. Nowadays, it's really packed. About a month ago, it was completely closed, completely empty because of what's going on with Corona. But thankfully, things are getting back to normal now here. And we've opened up most things. Even restaurants are now open. And so there are people coming back to the market again. But that's generally what the market looks like. But let me quickly just show you a little map. This is, so to give you a frame of reference, when I said I live a minute away, this is where I live. This right over here is the market. You see that basically it runs between Jaffa Street over here and what's called Agrippa Street down here. And the shuk, the market, is basically two streets that run in between with a bunch of cross streets, okay? So that being said, this is really what the shuk is, how it's laid out. The blue is the market itself. The red is the area nearby, but the blue is the market itself. And you see that these cross streets kind of like make it like a ladder almost, okay? And there's a little area over here on the side that's called the Iraqi market. Okay, that's the market itself. But what I want you to understand is that this market didn't always look this way. The market started with basically, because there was a neighborhood right over here. There was another neighborhood right over here. So there's Jews living here and here, and Arabs that lived to the west this way had little villages, and they would grow their fruits and vegetables, and they would carry them along Jaffa Street this way to the east and take them into the city. It wasn't the old city, it was just the city, because there wasn't really a new city yet, okay? Now there is. Until one day they said, what are we, idiots? We're walking past all these people. Why don't we sell fruits and vegetables to them right here? And so that's how this market began. There weren't yet streets. It was a big empty lot. And they put crates on the ground and sold simple things, fruits and vegetables, straw mats, and live chickens. You know why live chickens, guys? Because they didn't have electricity back then. So if you slaughtered a chicken and then you just like kept it around until somebody bought it, it would spoil. So back then, there was no refrigeration. If you wanted chicken for dinner, you would go to the market and you would buy a live chicken and you'd bring it home and you'd kill it yourself and then you'd clean it and cook it. For real. Sure, you know, some of you think that you'd probably be vegetarian back then, but in reality, nobody was, or not very many people. That was just the way it was, okay? So that being said, I'm going to show you guys two early pictures of what the market looked like, okay? So the first picture right here, let me actually go back to that map for a second, was taken from basically down here on the bottom left, you can see, looking diagonally this way, okay, right past where the market is, okay? And I'm about to point to a building that is located right here, just opposite the market. Everybody see where I'm circling, I hope? Yeah? Okay, so going back to that picture, this building is right there. This building is directly across the street from the market. And the market ran from here basically this way, or that's where the market is today. But this is an empty lot. This picture was taken around 1890, okay, about 130 years ago. My apartment that I live in today is basically right over here, Okay. Not there then. Okay. But really, this is how the market began. Empty lot, like I said, and crates on the ground. And I can tell you that this building, this building, this building, this one, and this one all still exist today. And I could show you them if you guys were here. Now, the second photo is taken from about 20 years later than this, from around 1910. And it's a closer shot of the neighborhood right next to this building. And you're going to see still selling out of crates on the ground. Okay. These are the Arab merchants. And it looks like they're selling here maybe potatoes and some other things. And that's something that people forget, but that this market that primarily is a Jewish market, there's lots of, it started as an Arab market. And nowadays, what people don't realize is that it still remains a real place of coexistence. There are Jews there, there are Arabs there, both the people that sell and the people that buy, and everybody just gets along and does their thing. A lot of times you hear about tensions in Israel between the Jews and the Arabs, and I'm not going to say that that doesn't exist. It does, unfortunately. But most people in this city, we may not be best friends with each other, but we just go about our daily business and our daily lives. And that's something you see for real in this market. Okay? All right. So that being said, I want to get into food. And I want to start with a food that is a true Israeli invention. It's a food that was invented in Jerusalem. Okay? And it's a dish that's called shamburak. You've probably never heard of it. It comes from a restaurant called Ishtabach. Now, this was invented here as a way of taking the leftovers from Shabbat and turning them into a new food. Okay? That's what we're going to see right over here. Okay? This on the bottom is basically just a type of a fresh bread dough, rolled flat. It's got some seeds on it. On top of that goes a really good mashed potato. And on top of that goes meat. That's where you get your choice. You can have about 10 different options or a vegetarian option if you want that. Then they cover it with some vegetable topping. And then they close up the dough. They kind of roll it, twist the ends, put it into a brick oven. When it comes out, it looks like this. It is amazing. It is delicious. It is not expensive also. And it's a really amazing local food. See, there's a bunch of chats, so let me just see if there's anything in there. Yeah, no, never heard of it. Kind of cool. All right, good. Yeah, so that's exactly right. And it's a really awesome dish. Okay? All right, so if you know the answer to this next question, I want you guys to unmute yourselves and say it. So first of all, does anybody know what this dish is called? Anybody?
I kind of forget what it's called. I think it starts with an F or something, but I know what it is.
Starts
I
with an
believe
S.
I know what it
I
is.
know it's shakshuka.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Very good. Whoever said that, I don't see who said that, but it is shakshuka. But here's a tougher question. Does anybody, other than Laura, who heard this already, does anybody know where in the world shakshuka comes from? What country it originates in? Or even have a guess?
Israel?
Not Israel, although that's a common guess I get.
Egypt?
Not Israel.
Syria.
What's that?
Egypt.
I didn't hear.
Egypt.
Not Egypt, but you're getting closer.
Syria.
No, but not a
Right.
bad guess. The
India?
answer. Oh, sorry. We have another guess.
India?
Josh says Turkey, not that, but remember Turkey because I'm going to talk about it later. So it comes from North Africa, okay? And probably,
Exciting.
oh, Shakshukaville, good guess. No, it comes from Tunisia most likely, but definitely North Africa.
Ah,
And just in case people aren't good with geography, I have a little map here of the world. Let me actually zoom it in a drop. So it'll be a little bit easier to see. All right, so Israel's right over here, okay? This is North Africa. So you see here Tunisia, okay, Algeria, Morocco, Libya. This is North Africa. And here is Israel over here. So this, Tunisia, is most likely where it came from, okay? And basically, for those who don't know, shakshuka essentially is a fresh tomato sauce that you make from scratch with some good spices and stuff. And then you crack eggs into it, and the eggs poach in the sauce. It's really, really yummy. It's very popular in Israel, and we eat it it's really breakfast food. We eat it all day, anytime, and sometimes you put different things in it. You can see in this one that looks like they put in some like maybe feta cheese and some hot peppers. Sometimes people put sausages inside. Really, really yummy. So that is North African. But I want you to remember it because at the very end of the tour, the last dish I'm going to show you includes shakshuka, okay? Again, but in a different way. So I want you to remember that this comes from North Africa, okay? By the way, if at any point I say a country and you don't know where it is, you want me to go back to the map and I haven't done it, just shout it out and I'll show you the map again, okay?
Question.
Yes.
What was the name of the first dish that you showed us?
Okay, so it's a little
From Ishtabak,
confusing.
right?
Actually, I'm going to put it into the chat. It'll be easier.
Thank you.
Let me open up the chat here for a second. So the name of the restaurant,
Is Ishtabak.
right? Ishtabach. And the dish is called Shamburak.
Shamburak.
I don't have the time to really get into it, but I can answer later if you want or email you. If you email me, I'll give you my email at the end. Both of those are actually puns or plays on words, but not for now. Okay, so moving on to the next food. So this is something that some of you may have heard of, some of you not, and it's called sabich.
Falafel.
No, it's not falafel. Falafel is awesome. I'm not going to talk about falafel today, but I love falafel. This is something called sabich, or sometimes in America they might pronounce it sabich, S-A-B-I-C-H. It basically includes these ingredients: thinly sliced fried eggplant, hard-boiled egg, and tahini, sesame paste. Those are the core ingredients. They might put other things in like a little salad or what's called amba, which is kind of a curried pickled mango sauce. This dish comes from Iraq. And in fact, it's a food that is special for Iraqi Jews. And I want to explain to you why. All of these foods, the thinly sliced fried eggplant, the hard-boiled egg, the tahina, they're all things that tasted fine at room temperature instead of needing to be heated up. Well, traditionally, Jews don't cook on the Shabbat, on Sabbath. And so you have two choices. Either you eat dishes on Saturday that have been staying on the heat all night, so they're slow cooked, or you eat things that taste fine at room temperature. So this was a Shabbat morning breakfast food. And the word sabich actually means morning in Arabic. The Jews in Iraq spoke Arabic, okay? In Israel, we turn it into a street food. So like all good street foods here, we shove it into a pita, just like you do with a falafel. Yeah. So again, I'm going to check these comments here. I see there's a bunch of things here. Jaira sabich, yep. I think I've heard of it. Maybe too. I think it was in the video we watched during class today. Okay, cool. I don't know about the class, so that's cool. And the capital of Iraq is Baghdad, because Abe said that he's a real geography guy. So that's cool. All right. So that is sabich. Really, really good. So I mentioned tahina, or tahini, as you might know. It's a sesame paste. And this is a very short video, less than a minute, that I was in a few years ago for a campaign about tourism in Jerusalem. And takes place in a tahina place in the market. And I want you just to learn a little bit more about about tahina. This place here makes tahina. Tahina, or tahini, as you might know it, is a sesame paste. But the name comes from the word to grind in Hebrew. This is the traditional way of making tahina, okay? 2 basalt rock stones, volcanic rock. In between them, nothing but pure, organic, imported sesame seeds from Ethiopia. Best sesame seeds in the world. And when it comes out, it's not like what most people are used to. It's thick and sticky like peanut butter, a little bit bitter, but delicious and super healthy. This is literally coming straight out of up here. It's a little sticky to talk, but it's amazing. So on that, how many of you have had tahina or tahini? Most of you? Yeah, a lot. Okay. But when you've had it, it was probably kind of whitish in color, and it was maybe had a little lemony taste to it, maybe some parsley or something inside. Okay, that's kind of the standard way of eating it. But what I showed you is the raw material, and people do use it just like that. But it's like peanut butter. It's not like tahina that most people eat. You take it and you mix it with water and lemon juice and parsley, and that's what you get poured over your falafel. Most of you, if you have had falafel, probably had tahini poured on the top. And yes, Adam is correct. It is also used in hummus. When you make hummus, which is a chickpea, mushed up chickpeas, almost always they'll mix in hummus. Oh, okay. Aviva's got the chocolate tahini. Yeah. So if that came from the market here, I don't know. There's a place in the market that has about 23 flavors. That place I showed you, they sell about 23 flavors of tahini. All different flavors and really, really good. Some of them are sweet, some of them are savory, some of them are spicy. It's really cool. And I'm not going to show you today, but the same company also sells what's called halva. Halva is more like a candy. It's the same ingredients, but it's not ground up as much. So it's like almost like a piece of cake that's basically sesame seeds, sugar, and other flavors. It's really, really yummy. Okay, and they have over 100 flavors of the chalva. Okay, and all kinds, like 5 or 6 different kinds of chocolate, all different kinds of dried fruit, nuts. It's really awesome. Now, going back to the pictures here, a number of you may be familiar with this cake right here, maybe not. It's pretty much a traditional Ashkenazic Jewish, meaning Eastern European cake that's called babka. Okay. And babka is basically the dough has yeast in it. So it's almost like bread dough, but it's all twisted and it's filled with chocolate or sometimes cinnamon. This one's chocolate. Now, what I really like to show you here is not just that it's from a different part of the world. Like, so I saw something from North Africa, something from Asia, now from Europe, but the bakery that this comes from, they have baked goods from all over the world. So this is from Eastern Europe. But they also sell, for example, a bread that is invented in Israel. And they have something else that comes from Turkey that I'm going to talk about later. And they have a type of bread from Morocco. And they have this, which I love. This is called kadeh. This comes from Kurdistan. Let me go back to the map for a second. Kurdistan is not a country, really. It's a region that's all right around here where these 4 countries meet: Turkey, Syria, Iraq, and Iran. So this area that I'm circling is Kurdistan, okay? And the Jews of Kurdistan, not only the Jews, but this dish here is Kurdish. It's a bread turnover, and inside of it, it's got melted cheese. Think of it like a really good grilled cheese, okay? Now, so I just mentioned this bakery has foods from all these different places. They're not a mix of all these different cultures. Their family isn't from all these different places. They're from Jerusalem. And because Jerusalem is an immigrant city, all the different people bring their baked goods with them, and they become a part of the Jerusalem baked goods. And so these people say, we're from Jerusalem. If you eat it, we'll bake it. That is a true Jerusalem bakery. Yeah, kind of like a quesadilla, except it's not a tortilla. It's like really bread dough and soft and chewy, really delicious. Let's see what else we got up here. Just a lot of excitement. No questions. That's good, but great. So yeah, awesome. So moving on from that, I'm going to take a little detour from the cheesy and the bready and the gooey. Or actually, no, I'm sorry, I forgot. I have one more cheesy, bready, gooey thing for you guys. I'm going to show you a section of this video that I was in a few years ago on what's called ILTV. But I want to show you about one other food in the market that's really awesome. Here we go. So guys, if you haven't been paying attention, watch this. And if you're not hungry yet, you're going to be hungry. We're going now to a place called Khachapuria.
Khachapuria. An interesting name.
Yeah, it's a Georgian place, not the state, the country. You've heard of a pizzeria. What does a pizzeria make?
Pizza?
What does a khachapuri make?
Khachapuri.
Khachapuri, very good. Khachapuri is a collective term for a number of different regional dishes in Georgia, and it means cheese bread. Oh, he's making a special one just for Natalie. Here's what you're gonna do.
Yeah, how exactly do you eat this?
Take the fork, okay? You see there's the egg there. I want you to pop the egg, okay? Mix it up with the cheese. Mix it all up with the cheese. Good, mix it good. Get some elbow grease in there. And when you're done mixing it, put down the fork and don't touch it again. Then we're gonna tear off pieces of the bread and scoop up the inside. Now I gotta say, this is not necessarily healthy food, but it's healthy for the soul.
Look at that gooiness.
Oh.
Wow. It's a little hot.
Yeah, it's hot.
Amazing.
Look at that.
I could eat this every day. Thank God I don't live in the area.
Once you've tried the delectable cheesy gooiness that is khachapuri, you'll definitely want to come back for more.
All right, so that's an awesome dish. Is there anybody here that wouldn't want to eat that? Nobody, right? Really, Aviva? All right, well, just because you hate egg, I'm going to actually show you something else, though, okay? So I mentioned the khachapuri means cheese bread, and it's a collective term for a number of different regional dishes. So that's the only one that has an egg in it. So for example, this one has no egg. This one is a different kind, and basically they roll the dough flat and they boil it so it's kind of like noodles, and they layer it with cheese. It's like a Georgian lasagna. And this one is called megaruli. It's a round disc of bread dough with a pocket inside where they melt the cheese. And then on top, they put more cheese so it gets all crispy. I know it looks like a pizza, but it's not a pizza. By the way, for those who don't know where Georgia is, so here's Europe, here's Africa, here's Asia. This is Georgia right over here, okay? So, okay, Laura, yeah, I definitely, I heard of a place in DC that was selling khachapuri. What I will say, though, is that to my knowledge, I can't say for sure, the specific type of cheese that is this Georgian cheese that they use, I don't think anybody in America has it. So most of the Georgian restaurants there are taking other cheeses and mixing them together to approximate it. We get the real stuff here, so that's really good. But maybe they've proven now you can get it there. So that being said, I want to stay on the map for a second because I just also want to use the Georgian Jews as an example of something. So in America, you probably have heard the terms Ashkenazi and Sephardi, but in case not, I want to explain what they mean. In America, most Jews are of Ashkenazic descent. Ashkenaz means this area right over here where Germany and France meet each other. And from here, the Jews filled all of Central and Eastern Europe over here. Sfarad means Spain down here. And when the Jews got expelled from Spain in 1492, they moved this way across North Africa, this way across Southern Europe, and this way up in Western Europe. So basically, the terms Ashkenazi and Sephardi just mean European with a little bit of North Africa. So if these are the Ashkenazim over here, and these are the Sephardim over here, what are the Georgian Jews over here? They're not Ashkenazi and they're not Sephardi. They have no connection to Germany or Spain. In fact, Jews from all over here, and Jews from India, and Jews from China, and Jews from Thailand, and Jews from Ethiopia, and from many, many places around the world are not Ashkenazi and they're not Sephardi. When you come here and you taste all these different foods from all over, you get to realize how diverse, how multifaceted, how different the Jews really are. Jews have literally spread all over the world. And we're not just Ashkenazi and Sephardi. We're a lot more than that. All right. Take a quick look at the chat. Nothing to answer there. Good. So let me go back now to here. And I want to take a quick detour to talk about fruits and vegetables. Okay? If you guys know what this is, unmute yourselves and tell me.
Dragon fruit?
Good guess. It's not dragon fruit, but that's a good guess. It kind of looks like dragon fruit, so it's not a bad guess. Any other guesses? Or
Star
no, or
fruit?
anybody know?
It looks a tiny bit like a star fruit.
It's not a star fruit, but those are in the same family.
Prickly pear?
Who said prickly pear?
Me, Micah.
Micah. Okay, cool. Very good. It is a prickly pear or a cactus fruit. And the name for it here is called a sabra. Now, one of the things that's really interesting about the sabra, so the reason they say that this is, they use the term sabra not just to talk about this fruit, but also to refer to any Israeli that was born here, as opposed to like me, I was born in America and I moved here, so I'm not a sabra. If I ever have children and they're born here, they'll be sabras, okay? But what's kind of funny when you think about it, the reason they say that they use the term is because Israelis have this kind of gruff and tough exterior. So they're like prickly on the outside, but when you get through the outside, they're really sweet on the inside, just like one of these. But what's interesting is, like I said, this is a type of fruit that comes from a cactus. I don't know if you know this, but all types of cacti in the world come from the Western Hemisphere, where you guys are, North and South America. This fruit is not native to Israel. So isn't that a little funny that we are talking, the word we choose to describe somebody who's native born here, we're using a fruit that comes from over there? But I think that there's a little truth in this too, because like I said to you, there was always some Jews in this land, but the vast majority of the Jews that live here now, maybe one generation ago, maybe 5 generations ago, maybe 20 generations ago, but somewhere in their past, they were living somewhere else and they came back to Israel. Just like this. This is from somewhere else, but it's been here for hundreds of years. So even the native-born Israelis, somewhere further back, a lot of them came from somewhere else. So that is the sabra. Am I prickly on the outside and soft on the inside? Well, I'm not a sabra, Aviva, so I don't need to be. I like to think that I'm sweet on the outside and on the inside, but I don't really know. So that's one thing. I want to show you 2 other pieces of produce, of fruits and vegetables, because I don't know if you guys know this, but in Israel, we grow about 95% of the fruits and vegetables that we eat. Almost everything is grown here locally. And as you may know, Israel is about the size of New Jersey, which is tiny, which means everything that we eat pretty much is local, okay? That means that it tastes better, it's healthier. You don't kill the environment just transporting it halfway around the world so you can eat it whenever you feel like it. But when it's not in season, you can't get it, okay? There's actually a calendar of the shuk based on what's in season. If I were in outer space and you plop me down in the market, I could tell you what time of year it was just by looking at the fruit that was on the shelves, okay? So this is something that I bet many of you have eaten, but you might not have ever seen it like this. Now, this is a close shot. Those are not that big. They're actually only about this big, okay? Who here knows or has a guess what that is?
Possibly artichoke.
Nope. Artichokes are kind of, they have lots of like leaves on the outside. And these are tiny. And by the way, I don't know if you can see, but the outside is fuzzy also.
Is it a fig?
It's not a fig, Aviva. Good guess.
Are they almonds?
Yes, they are, Steve. I bet some of you have allergies to almonds. So that's why I said many of you have eaten them. But these are actually the way almonds grow on the tree. Okay? They have this fuzzy pod on the outside. And you can actually eat the pod if you want. It's got a little bit of a sourness to it, but when they're really fresh, you can eat them with the outside. Or you can sometimes slice them up, and you can put them into meat dishes and stuff like that. And the nut is the very inside. It's like the pit of this. It's kind of like if you imagine a peach. You have the outside, and then you have the pit on the inside. That's what an almond actually is, okay? These come into season in the middle of the winter, like late February or early March. But they were still in the shuk just last week. So I took this picture just last week. They were still here. That's the very end of the season, though. They're here late. But actually, that's what they look like. So, and it's also really special. Do you guys know about the holiday of Tu B'Shvat? Some people know about Tu B'Shvat? Yeah? Okay. So there's a song in Israel about Tu B'Shvat, which some of you may have learned at some point. Tu B'Shvat higia chaga ilanot, which means Tu B'Shvat, the name of the holiday is here, the holiday for the trees. The almond tree is the very first tree that blooms every winter, in the middle of the winter, right around the time of Tu B'Shvat. And it's a beautiful flower. And when you see it, you know that you're kind of over the hump of the winter and on your way towards spring. Okay? And so the very first line of that song says, Hashkedia porachat, the almond tree is blooming. And that shows us it's the beginning of heading towards spring. Now, the last of the produce that I want to show you is this. I know you guys spoke about this in class because I was told you spoke about it. So that's why I want to mention it here. Here you can see cherry tomatoes or grape tomatoes, all different kinds of tiny tomatoes. Look at these different colors. Beautiful. These ones, by the way, on the right are my favorites. They're called chocolate cherry tomatoes, okay? They're not actually chocolate, but they have a thicker skin and they're very sweet and they're delicious. Now, some of you may have heard, and maybe even in your class, I don't know what they told you, that Israel invented the cherry tomato. This is not true, okay? We did not invent the cherry tomato. The cherry tomato is naturally occurring from ancient times. What we did do is improve the cherry tomato. Okay, first of all, we bred them so they tasted better, so that they grew in clusters that made it easier to harvest and actually to market it properly. And we come up with all kinds of new varieties. So I don't mean to call out your teachers if they told you that. I'm sorry. It's a very common mistake. So if they made that mistake, it was an honest error. But it's true. We did not invent it, but we may as well have because we made them a lot better, okay? And they're delicious. That's okay. No, it's fine that they didn't get it right. That's fine. Most people, I used to make the mistake too until I learned better. All right, moving on. Anybody know what this is? Call it out or chat, either one.
Borek.
Close, and I'm going to come back to that, Steve.
Oh, good.
These are burekas. Okay, I'll explain the difference in a minute.
Oh, I use the Turkish term because I know Turkish food.
I understand that, and we're gonna come back to it. There's a reason I'm being specific. You'll see. Okay, so this is not challah. It's not bread. This is called burekas. These ones are cheese. These ones here are potato filling, and basically it's a type of a phyllo or puff pastry. And on the inside, it has different fillings: potato, cheese, spinach, mushroom, all different kinds. It's not bread. It's more pastry, really. Okay, really crispy and delicious. They're amazing street food. And as Steve correctly pointed out, these come from Turkey. What many people don't know is that they were actually invented by Turkish Jews. And they're a true Jewish food, and I'll explain why. They reflect our history. Jews have spread all over the world, as I've said, and when you move, you miss the food you had, and you keep cooking it. But sometimes you have something from the old country, you discover something in the new country, and you mix them together, and you get a new food. That's burekas. Now, think about this for a second. Think of a small, like maybe that big, okay, pastry turnover with filling inside. Most of the Jews of Turkey came from Spain after the expulsion. Can you guys think of any kind, oh, Josh already got it, very good. I was gonna say, can you guys think of any kind of a Spanish or Latin American food that resembles that? And absolutely correct, Josh, empanadas. For those of you who don't know empanadas, in case anybody doesn't, it's a pastry turnover, and inside it's got meat and vegetables and stuff like that. Now, the Jews that moved from Spain to Turkey kept cooking empanadas until in Turkey, they discovered what Steve mentioned, which is this. This is a borek. Similar to a bureka, but first of all, it's much, much, much bigger, and you slice it into pieces, okay? Sometimes you also slice it in half and put sauces inside. So it's similar. But the Jews looked at that and they said, hey, Borek have great filling. Why don't we take that filling, stick them into our empanadas? That way, on the one hand, you have a finger food version of Borek instead of having to cut it up. And on the other hand, you have a non-meaty version of your empanadas. And that is how the Boreka was born. So it's a very related food, but it is different, okay? And if we didn't move from Spain to Turkey, there wouldn't be a Boreka in the world. And it seems like a lot of you haven't had it, but you're going to have to trust me. That would be really sad, okay? So that is Borekas. All right. Now, speaking of empanadas, this restaurant here is called Argento, and that's because it is an Argentinian restaurant, Argentinian, okay? And if anybody reads Hebrew, what it says here, we can do it still. It says empanadas, bashuk, in the market. This place makes empanadas. 4 different kinds, and the owner, Lucas, is from Argentina, and so he's making the food he knows from home. But he invented a special empanada that you can see here that is unique to here. On the inside, it has lamb, dates, peanuts, and a Mediterranean spice blend that's called Ras Al Khanut. Basically, that is what we call fusion food. The empanada is what he knows from Argentina, but the stuff he sticks inside is the local food, the food from Israel. And it is outstanding. Okay? Now, I'm going to quickly go through a few other cuisines that we have inside of the market. This, I'm sure you all know pasta, and probably a lot of you like it. I forget, I think, who said they was it Aviva that you said you liked pasta before? Somebody said they really like pasta. I don't remember who it was. Well, this is a place called Pasta Basta. The word basta is kind of the slang term for like stands in the market. And so it's a cute play on words. You have a basta that sells produce. You have another basta that sells fish. This is the Pasta Basta.
I've been there.
You've been there?
Yeah.
And did you like it?
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Awesome. And you got
Pasta Basta sounds Italian.
Yeah, exactly.
Pasta.
Exactly. That's the cute thing. And so you get to choose which kind of pasta you want, which kind of sauce you want, and what other things you want them to put in, like what vegetables, what cheeses, etc. And they make it for you fresh, and it's done in like 5 minutes or something. It's really, really yummy. So that is Italian food, pasta. You choose all the pasta. All right.
They had pink pasta dyed with beet juice.
Uh-huh. Yep, I know that one. I'm not a big fan of beets, so I don't usually get that one, but I definitely know that one. Yeah. Now, right next door to Pasta Basta, or just across the alley, is a place that sells fish and chips. Some of you may know fish and chips. Fish and chips, of course, comes from England, from London originally. And actually, just as a side note, it was invented by Jews in the East End of London. Okay, the fish.
The original fish frying machine is
well,
is held by a Jewish person.
Not just the fish frying machine, but fried fish, meaning fish that was battered and fried in oil, was specifically a Sephardic way of preparing fish. And the fish vendors there were Sephardim, and their neighbors were Irish people. And the Irish people were making chips. And so the Jews said, let's put them together, and we got fish and chips. But it's recognized by historians. You go to London, there's even stores that say this is the original place that sold fish and chips. So that's kind of a cool thing. All right. Nobody here likes pizza, right? Nah.
Obviously.
Well, this place in the market is really making the best pizza. I'm not joking. This pizza is awesome. When you have pizza in Israel, there are places that sell, say, Roman-style pizza. But in reality, this is not an example of Italian food like the pasta is. This is American food. This is New York-style pizza. This crust is a sourdough crust. It takes 3 days to prepare, and they are constantly tweaking and making it better. It's really a craft for them. All different kinds of amazing, interesting toppings like Kalamata olives you see here. Really awesome pizza, like the best, okay? Another example of American food is this place called Hatch. And they are really a foodie's paradise. The guy who owns it, he's a young guy. He's like 31 years old. Young for me, not for you guys. But he's from Long Island, New York. and a pretty religious kid, but he's into the science of food. He's a food nerd. And everything in that store almost is made by them. These are awesome buffalo wings. They're like the best buffalo wings I've ever had. So that's really, really good. Just going to keep checking the chat periodically. Pizza not from NYC exists. It does. It's just not as good. All right. Now, our last stop, guys, and then I'll have some time for questions. Okay? Is a restaurant that's called Jachnun Bar. That's a funny sounding word, Jachnun. This right here is a Jachnun. Okay, it's a very dense cylinder of dough, and it bakes all night in the oven on Friday night. Shabbat morning, you come home from synagogue, and you have this hot Jachnun, which is sweet, this egg that basically cooks in the oven all night and turns kind of brown. This is fresh grated tomato. It's not a sauce, just grated tomato. And back here is what's called schug. Schug is a hot sauce. And it's a serious amount of heat, not like burn your face off hot, but it's hot. But what I like about it is that it's not just heat, it also has flavor. Now this place doesn't only make this, they also make this. This is called malawach. Malawach is like a puff pastry dough, okay? These two dishes that I just showed you are actually made out of the same dough. It's just a different process. The malawach, you roll it out and cook it up. Jachnun, you have to keep rolling and folding and rolling and folding. And it takes about 3 days to prepare, and then the all-night baking. Now, they do some interesting things with the malawach at this restaurant. This one here is called mimulawach, which means stuffed malawach. It's a malawach with everything on it. Normally, they wrap it up like a burrito. That's how it's stuffed. When I have tour groups, I get it like this, open face and cut up like a pizza so people can share it. But the last thing I want to show you is a really special dish. That's another example of fusion food. You guys remember I mentioned to you shakshuka. Well, they make a dish called shakshuka lawach. Now think about this for a second. Malawach, as I said, comes from Yemen. Let me show you the map for a second. Yemen is down here. Shakshuka, I told you, comes from here. Never in the history of Yemen did a shakshuka ever touch a malawach. They never heard of shakshuka. Comes from a different part of the world. In Jerusalem, nobody's like, ew. Everyone's like, yeah, give me that because that's awesome. So let's watch this short video. I shot this like last week. That's why we're wearing masks. And it's all about shakshuka lawach. I am here outside of Jachnun Bar, one of my favorite places here in the Shuk, and I'm going to hang out with Guri, one of the owners here, and he's going to make me something really special called shakshuka lawach. You're going to love it. Let's check it out. What do you got there? Tell us about this. What is this?
It's called the malawach. It's a very unique pastry. It's a very long time to make this dough ready for cooking. It's a process that takes about 24 hours.
So fold it and roll it and fold it and roll it.
Yeah.
And it's Yemenite, correct?
Yeah.
So you're not Yemenite?
No, I'm not Yemenite.
And neither is Regev?
No. But when he came to Jerusalem, there was nothing like this in Jerusalem, so he decided to open.
Guri, whose idea was it first to put the shakshuka into the malawach?
The customer came inside and Regev was working. And he said to him, look, I like a lot your shakshuka, but I need to go. I can't stay and eat it now. I need something to go. Regev tell him the only dough we have is our malawach. And he put him inside the shakshuka, inside the malawach, and it was fabulous. And since then, came to the menu.
So it was luck?
Yeah, everything here is luck. Hummus and tahina.
Of course.
Of course.
Now, I notice your tahina is green.
Yeah, we make it also with a lot of parsley. As I say, we're in the market. We can use every day the fresh ingredients. A little bit spicy. Now we add the shakshuka. That's fried eggplant, some fried onion, a little bit roasted onion and mushroom.
at that. Now that is definitely breakfast to go.
Enjoy.
Toda. Okay, Guri, I have one question for you. Shakshuka does not come from Yemen, where malawach comes from.
Exactly.
And that's something that happens here in Israel, that we put them together. I think it's great. You think it's great. Has anyone ever heard that and said to you, shakshuka on a malawach? What the heck is that?
A lot of people.
And what do you tell them?
It's the best, and they got to have to try it. If they don't like it, I won't charge them.
And have you ever had anybody who said they didn't like it?
Never. Never had a man.
Never anybody who didn't like it. Now that's awesome. So that is a perfect way to wrap this up because it is a great fusion food. I'm just going to quickly check the chat here. And then I will wrap this all up and take some questions. Pretzels, pretzels. No, we don't have those here, actually, believe it or not. Okay, so that being said, the last thing I mentioned to you, I have a little gift for you guys, particularly for those of you who like to eat and maybe like to cook. So I have a friend named Adina Sussman. She lives in Tel Aviv. She's from America originally, an old friend of mine. And she recently came out with this awesome Israeli cookbook called Sababa, which is slang for awesome. Okay, it's a really good cookbook. And with her permission, I'm going to share with you a few pages from the cookbook with one of the recipes that maybe you and your parents can do together. And I chose one that really feels Israeli, but also has ingredients that should be easy for you to get. One of the things that it includes, the core ingredient includes, is something that in Israel we call petitim. You might know it as Israeli couscous. If you can't find Israeli couscous, you can use orzo, which you should be able to find. Okay? So I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to put in the chat my contact information. So a website that I have of my tourism, my email address. I also started a blog about Jewish food. But from there, you have a way to download this recipe. Okay? So there you go. You have that. With that, I'm happy to take questions. But instead of making me read everything, if you have any questions, please unmute yourselves and ask.
Will you make this video available to us?
Say again, please.
Will you make this video available to us?
The video of this whole chat?
Yeah.
You have to. I didn't record it. You have to ask Laura or Rena.
Okay.
If they do make it available, I'll just ask that you don't like share it wide and stuff like that because I want people to have to come to me. But I don't mind people seeing it again.
Thank you.
Anybody have questions? No?
I have a question.
Yes, Laura.
So being an American in Israel, like here we have some Israeli restaurants. There seem to be more and more of them. They're gaining in popularity, which makes me very happy. Do you have like what is styled as American restaurants in Israel? Do you have like burger bars or like what do Israelis think Americans actually eat?
Certainly like there are foods here that show the American influence, like hamburgers, like pizza and things like that. And also like that place I showed you that was that with the buffalo wings. Like I could show you a picture I have somewhere else. Like what it says on the outside in Hebrew basically is like something like Israeli beer, American kitchen. Okay? Or there's another place nearby here called Crave that sells really American style street food. And they'll have like, and it's kosher, but they have, for example, you can have a kosher bacon cheeseburger. It's got lamb bacon and it's got like a non-dairy cheese. That's pretty decent actually. Okay. So these are things that like are really American influence. They're not necessarily being billed as American style, but some of them are, and certainly they are American style. Yeah. Other questions, anybody?
I'm so surprised. This is not a quiet group.
That's fine. I think that they were, they were chatting throughout, so that's fine, which is great. All right. So then if that's the case, nobody has any questions. First of all, if anybody does have questions down the road, please feel free to email me. I'm happy to email you guys back. Okay. I hope that all of you at some point in the not too distant future will make your way to Israel, and I hope to see you guys here. And keep eating Israeli food and loving Israeli food. Okay, you guys are welcome.